Hello and welcome to week 4. So hopefully you are in the groove and seeing how the class is going to run. And so as you know, each week we have a different theorist and theory that we're learning about. You have weekly journals to do. A few weeks you have discussion boards as you did last week, and you will have again this week. I will be grading your what is a theory paper this week. I've already graded the ones that have been turned in so far, and I'm really enjoying seeing how you really took the information from general to specific, and most importantly, really analyzed how you were going to be able to use educational theory in the classroom. So last week we looked at Piaget, who, as you know, is one of the most familiar names in education. This week we're moving on to another familiar name, which is Vygotsky. And to let you know, in full disclosure, I am actually a very big fan of Vygotsky. Not that I'm not a fan of the other theories, I'm just like you. Each theory has bits and pieces that I find relevant, but there really isn't a theory that I 100% subscribe to, simply because if you've been in the educational field for any length of time, you know that it's almost impossible to be able to say that a theory works with every single child 100% of the time. So that's why our own theory is constantly evolving, because as we spend time in the classroom, as we spend time with students, as we spend time with their families, we start to recognize that there may be some things that are universal, but there really is nothing that we're going to be able to say is 100% true 100% of the time with 100% of the students. So with Vygotsky, as I said, that's probably a name you're extremely familiar with. And so this week, as you read through the chapter, it is probably going to be a review for you as well. There are a couple of other resources that I put on Blackboard for you. But a few things just to remember about Vygotsky. Remember, he is a sociocultural theorist. So as opposed to Piaget, who really believed that children are constructing their own knowledge, Vygotsky believed that children need to be constructing their knowledge, but we can't discount the importance of other people and community, the role of teachers in the classroom, more knowledgeable others. So some terms that are frequently associated with Vygotsky: zone of proximal development, scaffolding. Those are things that will again be a review for you, hopefully between the chapter and the resources. So if you look at what we have on Blackboard this week, here's the PowerPoint that goes along with Vygotsky, and I have a couple of short videos. I understand that between the readings and the assignments, and I'm sure this is not the only course that you're taking, you don't want to sit for hours and hours to watch videos. But I do try and find ones that I think are going to give maximum impact with a minimum amount of time. So there is an introduction to his theory. This is one that is a good comparison of Piaget and Vygotsky, because normally those are the two that are compared and contrasted the most, just so you can kind of see where they're similar and where they differ. And then the last two videos this is just a practical one of a child actually demonstrating Vygotsky's theory. And then I think it's always important to be able to see what this theory can look like in the classroom. So this is a group of elementary teachers that are using Vygotsky in the classroom. So hopefully those videos will just help solidify the information as you are reading through about Vygotsky. So the additional resources, this is actually a chapter that Vygotsky wrote in a book, so nothing's better than a primary source. And these are just some notes on Vygotsky. It also does include an analysis of Piaget versus Vygotsky as well. So this week you have your weekly journal as always, and you do have a discussion board this week. The one thing that I want you to be aware of from the beginning is that this is a blind discussion board, so you're not going to be able to see your classmates' responses until you post first. And the reason is because when you look in here, I'm asking you to actually do a little bit of thinking of how you can use Vygotsky's theory in the classroom, and in some particular instances. So for instance, in working with students who have English as their second language, how could you give an example of using the zone of proximal development or scaffolding in your classroom to differentiate instruction? So as you know, differentiated instruction is extremely popular, and it also works in the classroom. It's making sure that every child is getting what they need on their level. So again, the reason that I didn't want you to be able to just see everyone's responses from the beginning was because I want you to take the time to come up with some examples, and then you can respond to two of your classmates. So those are the only assignments that you have for this week. Hopefully you are still working on your book review, which again is not due for quite a while. But when you are done with it, if you get done with it early, feel free to submit it early, because that also helps me to be able to keep up with grading. So as I said, I'm going to be grading your theory papers this week, and I will return them through Blackboard. This first time through, what I did was I actually wrote on your papers so that you could see any comments or suggestions that I had, especially with APA formatting, and then I have scanned it back to you so that you can see my comments. And so if that continues to work well, then I will do that for the remaining assignments as well. So I hope you have a fantastic week learning about Vygotsky, and I will see you next week when we start talking about Bloom.